Just because the fantasy regular season is over doesn't mean you get to stop tinkering with your roster. Let's look at the waiver wire options for week 14. Some decent names at quarterback. Phillip Rivers, who's been playing well, and we talked about the matchups with T.Y. Hilton. That pretty much applies to Phillip Rivers as well. Jalen Hurts, provided he ends up as the starting quarterback. More on that as the week progresses. Andy Dalton, who has a revenge game coming up this week. I guess in week 14, I should say, against the Cincinnati Bengals. Baker Mayfield, who was on fire on Sunday against the Tennessee Titans. And then Matthew Stafford, who's been playing well. The matchups are middle of the road, but Stafford's been playing well, so you might look to give him some run if you need to. The skill position guys, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. The Cam Akers hive has come alive once again after his big game on Sunday. Ty Johnson, who stepped in for Frank Gore after Gore went out, was in concussion protocol in that game. So if Johnson ends up being the starter, if Gore can't go, Johnson should be on rosters considering the workload he saw on Sunday against the Raiders. T.Y. Hilton, we talked about. Kiki QT, another guy who's still out there in a lot of leagues, and after having that big game is certainly going to be somebody that's picked up off a lot of waiver wires. Colin Johnson has scored touchdowns in back-to-back games and should be getting some looks there in the Jaguars. A couple of tight ends who we know they are dart throws, yes. But Cole Kmet, who is starting to outplay Jimmy Graham in Chicago, and then Anthony Ferkser. Of course, that is sort of provided that Jonnu Smith is hurt and doesn't play in week 14. But then again, even when Jonnu's been on the field, Ferkser is starting to get more run in that Titans offense. But Kimmy, let's start off. Let's go back and talk about Phillip Rivers at the quarterback spot, because early in the year, we were sort of avoiding Phillip Rivers. We were avoiding pretty much all parts of this Colts passing game. But Rivers has started to turn some things around. Maybe he's just getting comfortable in Indianapolis. I don't know, Kimmy, but he's become a serviceable fantasy quarterback for the last few weeks.
I've kind of been rocking with this Phillip Rivers quarterback fantasy situation for the last few weeks because he has been playing so well, which was kind of a shocker if you think of what he's done in years prior. Maybe he just needed this new team. He needed a little bit of cold. LA was just a little too warm for him. Now, on Sunday, he was 27 for 35 pass attempts for 285 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's 77% of his passes completed. He's thrown over 220 yards in the last 10 games straight, throwing closer to 300 yards in most of those matchups. Now, he had huge connections with T.Y. Hilton, who we talked about. We also saw a resurgence of Jonathan Taylor also getting involved in the passing game yesterday. And they don't have too bad of a remaining schedule. They play the Raiders, which is a favorable matchup against the Texans, a tough one against the Steelers, but then they end with Jacksonville, another really good matchup. So if you need a streaming quarterback from here on out, or at least on a week-to-week basis, Phillip Rivers is not too bad of an option.
I absolutely agree. If you are streaming quarterbacks and you're playing the matchups every week, Phillip Rivers is a name that you at least have to pay attention to. And maybe you find some better options out there, but I don't think you can completely exclude Rivers from the conversation, especially because now we've seen the T.Y. Hilton resurgence. Michael Pittman is starting to get some more love, and they're spreading it around to their tight ends, whether it's Trey Burton or Mo Alley Cox, whoever it is. And now Jonathan Taylor getting involved in the passing game as well. Okay. So all season long, we've been trying to figure out what's going on with the Rams running backs, and it maybe has taken 13 weeks, but at least as of yesterday, it appears that Sean McVay has been ready to anoint Cam Akers. I tweeted that, and the thirst that came back at me from people who have been Cam Akers stans all year long was palpable. Are you ready to plant your flag on the Cam Akers plot of land here and declare that he is the running back you want from this Rams backfield?
I need like a Lion King moment where I just lift up Cam Akers and I show him to the world. And I'm like, Simba, it is him. We found our lead back for the Rams. It's Sean McVay lifting him up. I'm in it. And even last week on the show, I said, do we dare have a lead back in Cam Akers? And you were like, I don't know, maybe. But I think that it's finally him. He carried the ball 21 times for 72 yards and a touchdown. He also caught his only target for 22 yards. And these other two running backs, Malcolm Brown and Darrell Henderson, they only combined for 6 carries and 9 touches. That was combined, not individual. Combined for 6 carries and 9 touches. Now, next week, they have a very tough matchup against the New England Patriots, who have kind of had a resurgence on their defensive end of the ball, and they did just go shut out Justin Herbert and the Chargers. But regardless, I'm going to fire up Cam Akers because we finally have a lead back for this Rams team.
The reason I think most of us were avoiding this situation wasn't because, we were talking about guys who just weren't great players. We just didn't know who was going to get the bulk of the opportunity most of the time. I mean, and that was sort of the reason we were fading Akers or Malcolm Brown or what have you, because just their usage was inconsistent. But if what we saw yesterday with Akers getting 21 carries is the start of something new, then I'm totally into to buy in. And our pal, our colleague, also Rams radio analyst Maurice Jones-Drew had been suggesting that maybe this was coming, but suggesting is one thing, seeing it is something else. And so it feels like Sean McVay has turned a corner, and now they're really going to start to lean on the rookie for the rest of the season. So let's all hope for that, right? Let's not all buy in, and then next week it's Darrell Henderson who gets like 15 carries, and then we're sitting here and we're pouting like somebody stole our bike or something like that. So we'll see. But yesterday was definitely encouraging, reason enough to start to buy in on Cam Akers fully. So if you have the number one waiver priority, if you are looking for somebody off the wire, where are you going first this week, Kimmy?
Now, it depends who's there. I need help at running back. I need help at wide receiver. So there are going to be two guys that I mainly want to target. It's going to be Kiki Q2, who was my sleeper from Sunday, who I'm still hyping and running for. But if he's gone, I think it's going to be Cam Akers, because like we just said, it seems as if he has now appeared as the lead back for the Rams. They're going to consistently run the ball. So I think Cam Akers or Kiki, those are my guys. Who are you gonna try to rock with though, Marcus?
I think I'm leaning toward Cam Akers here, just because I always feel like you can't have enough running back help because of the way guys are used and rotated, and you're always certainly worried about injury at the running back spot. So Cam Akers is probably the guy I'm leaning toward. I like the QT call. I also wouldn't mind taking some shots at T.Y. Hilton, just knowing how many leagues he's available in. So if you want a quality wide receiver, one who has, when everything's right, has wide receiver one potential. The fact that T.Y. Hilton's out there in a lot of leagues could end up being very impactful for a lot of fantasy managers as they head into the postseason. After the break, we will start previewing the games left on the schedule. Still 3 more games to be played in Week 13, so we will talk about all 3 of them. Stay tuned for that on the NFL Fantasy Football Show presented by DraftKings.